Hi guys, I'm sorry that I'm not there with you to enjoy this party of rational expressions, but I know that you're going to do just fine with it. And if not, here is a video that will hopefully help clarify some things for you. So from the classwork, you had a practice that was just on adding rational expressions. And the whole thing about adding fractions is that we need to have a common denominator. Once we have a common denominator, we keep our denominator the same and we add our numerators. So when we're dealing with expressions, it's the same type of thing. So if we take a look at number 1 on the helicopters practice sheet, we have 7 over x minus 3 plus 4 over x plus 3 x minus 3. Well, the the lowest common denominator is the one that both denominators can divide into, or in other words, it's the one where that encompasses all of the factors within any denominator. So because x minus 3 and x minus 3 are in both denominators, x minus 3 is for sure going to be part of the LCD, but this one also includes an x plus 3. So to make sure that the x plus 3, x minus 3 is a factor of our denominator, we have to include it in our denominator. So the lowest common denominator is the one that includes all of the factors from all the from all the denominators in your problem. Okay, once you have a common denominator, then you can convert any fraction that doesn't have that denominator to the common denominator by multiplying by whatever factor it's missing. So what I mean by that is 7 over x minus 3, we would just multiply by the other factor, the missing factor, x plus 3, on both the top and the bottom. And the bottom is how it'll give us our common denominator. And then because we did it on the bottom, we have to multiply by that on the top. So we get 7 times x plus 3 at the top. This fraction already had the lowest common denominator, so we don't change it at all. So it stays a plus 4. Once we do that, we just simplify our top, combine our like terms, and as long as there's nothing further to factor or simplify, we're done. So I distributed, I get 7x plus 21, and then when I combine the like terms, the plus 4, I get 7x plus 25, and then my denominator, of course, stays the same. So let's recap. If the denominators aren't the same, we have to find a common one. We find a common one by including all of the denominators, all of the factors of any denominator that are listed, and then we look at it, we convert the fractions one at a time to the higher denominator by multiplying by whatever factor we're missing. So in this case, the 7 over x minus 3 was missing the x plus 3. So we multiply both the top and the bottom by the x plus 3. Okay. Let's try another one. This one's number 2 on the same sheet. Okay, so this fraction has a denominator of x plus 5. This one has a denominator of x times x plus 5. So I include all of the factors of all my denominators. So x plus 5 is going to be a factor as well as the x. So this fraction, to make it match here, I multiplied the denominator by x, so I also need to multiply the numerator by x. This fraction already had the lowest common denominator, so I just bring everything straight down. That leaves me with x times x, or x squared, plus 7x plus 10. When I factor that, I see that my common factors of x plus 5 on the top and the bottom can be factored out. So I'm left with simply x plus 2 over x. Okay. In number 9, we're skipping down to the bottom. We have 3 fractions that we're adding, but we're going to follow the same format. We want to take any factors of the denominator and include it in our LCD. anything that has that denominator stays exactly the same. That's why the 7 is the same. And then anything that needs to be converted, we just multiply by the missing factor. So we have a minus 3 to start with. It's missing an a plus 4. So I just multiplied the numerator and denominator by that a plus 4. And then over here, we have 1 over a plus 4, so it's missing the a minus 3. So I multiply both the top and the bottom by the a minus 3. So I'm going to clean things up by distributing. So I get 2a plus 8 when I multiply these, plus my 7, plus a minus 3 when I distribute that 1. I combine like terms. The 2a plus the a gives me 3a. 8 plus 7 minus 3 gives me 12. And then when I factor out a GCF, I see that I have matching factors at the top and the bottom of a plus 4 that will cancel out. So I'm left with 3 over a minus 3. Hopefully that was useful. Let's switch gears and talk a little bit about subtracting. So if you put the Cannibals practice in front of you, we'll go over a few problems from this paper as well. So with the Cannibals, we're going to really follow the same thing. In this one, however, the denominators have not all been factored, so we need to first factor it. So this is a difference of 2 squares, so it factors to x plus 2x minus 2. Again, we take all of our factors from our denominators to find our LCD, and then we multiply by whatever fraction or factor is missing on both the numerator and the denominator. The 8 stayed the same because it already had the LCD. So the only fraction I need to convert in number 1 is the second one. I do that by multiplying by 3 times x plus 2. I distribute that negative, so it becomes 8 minus 3x minus 6. And when I combine like terms, I get the negative 3x plus 2 over x plus 2x minus 2. Okay, skipping ahead to number 6. This one's a little bit different. Everything's been factored, but we don't have any common factors. So in a case of this, we just take every denominator and make it a factor of the LCD. And then we're still going to multiply by whatever fraction we're missing, factor we're missing. Sorry, I keep messing that up. So I'm missing in this fraction, the factor 3d plus 1. Over here, I'm missing d minus 7. So when I distribute that, and over here, I get 9d plus 3 minus 2d plus 14 because it's a negative 2 times a negative 7. And when I clean it up and combine like terms, I get 7d plus 17 over our denominator of our LCD, d minus 7 times 3d plus 1. Okay. And finally, number 10 is the last one we'll do. We again have to factor this denominator. D squared minus 11 will not factor, it's prime. But that gives us d minus 4 times d minus 3. When we get our LCD, we see that we only have to multiply or convert our second fraction by multiplying it by d minus 3. And this is where you want to be careful with your signs. Okay, we're multiplying d plus 1 times d minus 3. When we do that, we get the d squared minus 2d minus 3. We do that by foiling or by using the grid method, however you want to do it. But make sure that you distribute the d and you distribute the 1. When you clean it up and combine like terms, this is what you're left with. And then keep in mind that you're subtracting that whole quantity. So it was this minus this whole thing, and this whole thing ended up being d plus 1 times d minus 3, which when we multiplied became this. So you have to keep it inside parentheses and make sure that you distribute that negative. So a d squared minus a d squared cancels out. That's why we don't have any more d squareds. Okay. The minus a negative 2d became a positive 2d, and the negative 11 minus negative 3 became the negative 8 that you see here. Okay, the denominator stays the same, of course. And when we factor out the GCF, we see we have matching factors of d minus 4, which will cancel out and leave us with a final answer of 2 over d minus 3. So I hope you found this useful. If you have any further questions, if you're still stumped, just come see me on Wednesday or Thursday. And I hope you guys have a great day. Please don't forget to watch the video It's on solving equations with adding and subtracting, and I'll see you guys next class.